We've got USDA's 2025 net farm income projections, plus an interview that we're excited to bring. That's right, we're doing things a little bit differently, and a lot more on today's episode of the Arkansas AgCast, which starts right now.
You're listening to the Arkansas AgCast, where we discuss the latest news, trends, and issues impacting Arkansas farmers and ranchers. Our show is brought to you by the Arkansas Farm Bureau Federation and hosted by Jason Brown and John Nickman.
Hello. You're awfully stoic over there.
I just couldn't wait. I was being impatient.
You were getting ready to kick us off.
Let's get this intro out of the way.
Come on,
lady. Talk.
Look,
Come on, lady.
Look, me and John have been down here just waiting.
Ooh,
That's
true.
That's part of the problem is that y'all are antsy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't talk about anything. We refused to talk because we were like, we got to save it for the podcast.
That's true. That's how we operate around
He's
here.
very protective of his voice, his vocal cords. He wants to make sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't talked
Tip-top
all day.
shape.
People have come in and out of my office. I just stare at them.
What is it? Yellow. What do people do? The voice exercise.
I don't know. I do remember, though, as a kid in like church choir, I wouldn't memorize any of the songs. And I would just say, watermelon, 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 watermelon.
That tracks.
Yeah, in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways.
I'm not a singer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the end of the statement. Just I'm not.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Well,
In my defense.
luckily.
But I do say watermelon really well.
Seems it. You just demonstrated that. It's Thursday here, and it's February 13th. We've got a little bit of a different show for you today. We took the opportunity. I'll spoil the surprise before we get there. We took the opportunity yesterday to travel up to Jonesboro. Matthew, John, and I, and several other people here at Farm Bureau to attend the I'll call it world famous A-State Agribusiness Conference. If you've never been there, it's a really big deal.
Conference.
It's a great conference.
Dr. Greenwald does a really good job putting that together.
Yeah, but we traveled up there to attend that conference and hear from all the experts who were speaking on outlooks of farm country and things like that. Got a financial outlook from the St. Louis, the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis. Again, issues that are facing agriculture, the impact of the 2024 election. Ag Secretary Wes Ward gave a lunchtime keynote address. A lot going on in the world of ag, obviously, and we got to hear an update on all of that yesterday. But most importantly, you and I got to sit down with Matushka Briggs.
We did.
Of the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis.
And thank you, Matushka, for sitting down with us.
Yeah. So that's kind of why we're doing different. Usually, if we do, if we do an interview, if we go to record the show live somewhere, we do the whole show there.
Yeah.
But based on some time constraints and the fact that we wanted to catch all the programming at the conference, we literally buzzed in, did our interview with her, and then got back to the conference.
And
so,
AgCast logistics get pretty tricky sometimes.
It does. It does. And we can tell you now because we're in the future from yesterday. But we had a little bit of mechanical failure on the part of a microphone yesterday.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, technically, it's still broken over here. I've just jerry-rigged it.
Noticing that what you've done there. That's impressive, honestly.
Is that a hair clippy?
Well, no, it's a mic
microphone
clip,
clip.
but it is just clipped up
Kinda
on
in
there, and
Yeah. So you've just messed it up now.
Hope for the best.
But,
I have to mute myself now to fix it.
Yeah. But anyway, so we're recording part 1 of the show in the studio and part 2 of the show in Jonesboro.
Yes.
In the cold, freezing rain.
That is correct. It's,
Yeah, carrying all this equipment through the rain was not fun.
You had some help.
On the way out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I went to go grab some stuff, and John looked like, that picture that everyone always discusses of trying to get all the grocery bags in the house at one time. John had literally like
I'm making one
14
trip.
bags of equipment that he's carrying out to the truck.
Shoulders didn't appreciate it, but I got it done.
Yeah. He's just ready for lunch. So,
It's so funny. But anyway, so that's kind of the explain. We just wanted to kick that off right off the bat, talk a little bit about why we're wearing one set of clothes today for half the show and one set of clothes for the other half.
Yeah.
You mean you guys don't just change clothes in the ad break?
I asked John to wash what he wore yesterday so we could just wear that.
I've been
again
asking
today,
for
and he
like a
didn't
green room, we just have all of our clothes in there for the podcast,
That'd be
specific
nice.
clothes.
That'd be
A whole wall full of water.
Your green room,
treats,
it's right there.
it's the corner of this room right here.
right there, just out.
It's just
out
as
front
cold
of
in that
everybody.
corner as over
Yeah,
here.
no doubt. All right, we did just dive right in and didn't do any of the fun stuff. So I'll ask you. I'll remind you. How about that? The big game. We had, I think, mostly everybody because Matthew was here last week too, rooting for the green team.
Yes.
The green team was victorious. I
Yes.
think we talked about the over/under being 49 points or 59 points.
48 and a half.
Yeah. But anyway, not
didn't
that
really
you're
matter.
not that you're keeping up. But I think we saw a lot of points scored, which
We did.
you projected as
I
my
did.
point. You projected a lot of points scored. We just didn't realize they would mostly be from the same team.
I will say my heart predicted the green team. My analytical self picked the red team. But I did wholeheartedly, my entire body picked the over.
Oh, how about that? How
That's
about
my
that?
claim to fame.
It was fun to watch. Y'all eat anything good? Do anything fun?
We made.
Did you watch?
We made homemade fried chicken strips.
Oh,
Not exactly like the Super Bowl food, but
yeah.
and we made homemade ranch and another homemade like dipping sauce.
What is that? Is that thing slowly falling down?
Maybe. It might be falling apart.
Should we?
I'm just gonna. I'll be muted unless I need to talk.
Okay. All right. Very distracting to me. It sounds like someone's persistently wanting in the
The
ring.
ballad of the microphone
Yeah.
continues.
Anyway, so homemade chicken strips.
Yep.
Homemade ranch.
Yes. And then another like let's call it like a Southwest ranch.
Yeah.
Fast food chain
Okay.
makes this kind of a, let's say the color's orange.
Uh-huh.
It was really good too. I like the homemade ranch though.
I dig it.
And roasted potatoes.
Mm.
And I had a glass of water.
Sounds tasty to me.
Yeah. What
A
about your
glass of water.
I did. What about
Thanks for adding that.
we got to stay hydrated. What about your famous got to leave at halftime?
Yeah.
Big
did-
game party.
We did it yet again. We had a lot of wings. We had some sausage balls, some cheese dip, all the traditional snacks,
Yeah.
I'd say.
We were gonna do wings, but they weren't. We did wait till the day before
Well, my
the big
problem
game, and they didn't have
was
wings in the store.
the weather was so terrible. It's like I'm not putting these on the smoker or
Yeah.
anything like that. So we had air fryer wings, but air fryer makes a great wing.
Yeah,
if
it
you
does.
haven't done that. They're pretty good wings. And then I had wings for lunch on Monday,
Yeah,
so it worked out.
it's pretty good. Do you have ranch?
I don't. Yeah, I like ranch a lot. I don't dip wings in ranch.
You a blue cheese guy?
I don't dip them at all.
Just
Sauce is enough.
straight up.
Well, what's funny is I'll literally dip just about anything in ranch dressing. Like I love it very much. Kind of a joke among my friends, but wings, no, I just like to eat them straight up.
Cool.
There's a wing chain that I like. That I love their ranch dressing, but I only use it for their fries. Now their fries are more famous probably than their wings. If you guys know what I'm talking about, they use celery salt on their wings. You know what I'm talking about?
Nope.
Okay. Their logo is green and has a big W.
Wingstop.
All right, there you go. All right.
That one.
That's the one. That's the one. That was not trivia, by the way. I was just trying to avoid saying that.
I still would have been scratching my head.
I'll say this. I think it's fun that we do the big game thing.
Yeah.
I listen to the Conan O'Brien podcast that gets millions of viewers per week. They just say it.
Okay. All right.
So at the end of the
there you
day,
go. We're probably not.
we're
getting-
probably overtly too PR trained.
So are you saying we don't
that's my
have
problem.
a million viewers?
We don't have 2 million.
He's saying that the podcast police are not coming for us.
Okay, but
So-
I was.
But
under the impression
it's
we
a
were,
fun
world
bit.
renowned.
Yeah.
However, I don't know
Okay.
that it's actually necessary.
Well, that's fair.
They would have to.
We can't not do the big game now, though, in the red team, green team, because that's lore now.
Yeah. That is the thing.
That we don't say it.
That is the thing.
It's actually just because we don't like the NFL.
Well, all right. So we'll come back to
Jason's
the
moving
A-State
on. He said
Agribusiness
now they are going
Conference.
to come for us.
On to the next one.
A-State Agribusiness Conference. We'll come back to that. Like we said, the interview. Anything else before we get into the news?
I think it was today. It was announced.
Yes.
Brooke
That's right.
Rollins has been confirmed as U.S. Ag Secretary.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little background on her. She's from Glen Rose, Texas. Did you know that?
Yes.
I didn't. And it'll be interesting to see what she, does in her.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we want to call it an agenda or plan.
Her time at the helm of USDA. I mean,
hopefully everything's great. And but anyways, what I did notice, and I hope not to hold this against her, she went to Texas A&M University.
oh yeah.
She also
An
went to
Aggie.
the University of Texas at
Oh,
Austin.
interesting.
And then she also went to the University of Texas at Austin School of Law.
Okay.
So she's all around
yeah. Texas through and
Texas.
through.
Yep.
That's
She
it.
was previously, this is all according to Google now.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't just like rambling off the top of my head.
Okay.
Acting Director of the Domestic Policy Council of the United States from 2020 to 2021.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
it'll be interesting to see what goes on from here, and a different administration change and their views. And I think there's already been some kind of concerns with funding or grants or climate programs and conservation. So she stepped in the seat at a timely time.
Yep.
Timely time.
Timely time.
Time.
A timely time.
That's right.
Yeah. So yeah, that's cool. That's something we've been waiting to hear about.
Yeah, that's right. And I think we maybe push something out about that on our social channels. Too,
Yeah,
if you're interested.
probably will.
So-
And then there might be a potential for a story there in the future.
exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, you want to get into the stories or
Let's do it.
one apiece today?
One apiece since we got that interview.
All right. I wrote this a while back, so I don't know if I remember what I wrote. Good thing I've got it in front of me.
That's right.
So for my story today, I wanted to highlight the U.S. Department of Agriculture's or Agricultural Economic Research Services, or USDA's net farm income forecast for 2025. Now, Jason, keep in mind that this is just a projection, but if I was to ask you if this year's projection is greater than or less than 2024's projection, what would you say?
I'd say less than.
Interesting. Well, let's see if you guess correctly.
Okay. Okay. All right.
I think you read my script, but we'll move on. USDA uses net farm income to broadly measure profits, and over the years, it's been up and down. And in 2022, net farm income hit a record level of $183 billion, but has declined significantly since. And in 2024, we saw net farm income drop to $139.1 billion. But according to the USDA's forecast, they project 2025's net farm income to be, you ready, Jason? Mm-hmm. You're just brimming with anticipation, I can tell.
I am.
Anyways, 2025's net farm income is projected to be $180.1 billion. So,
Interesting.
yeah, I didn't expect that either.
Yeah.
So not bad.
Sure.
But it's not quite 2022, that record that was set.
Uh-huh.
But it is a $41.0 billion or $41 billion, or almost a 30% increase from 2024. I should mention that this is in nominal dollars, or that it is not adjusted for inflation.
Okay.
This is also significant, though, not the adjustment or whatever, but the number itself. Given the fact that the 2024 forecast was projected to fall $8.2 billion from 2023. So if we account for inflation, net farm income is forecast to increase by $37.7 billion, or 26.4% in 2025 relative to last year in 24. I also find it interesting that 2025 net farm income would be 44.8% above its 20-year average of $124.4 billion.
Interesting.
Also, another measure of farm profitability used by USDA is net cash farm income, which consists of cash receipts from farming as well as cash farm-related income, which that also includes federal government payments,
Right.
but minus cash expenses. It does not include non-cash items, in parentheses, including changes in inventories, economic depreciation, and gross inputted rental income of operator dwellings. The net cash farm income for 2025 is forecast at $193.7 billion for 2025. When adjusted for inflation, that net cash farm income from 2023 to 2024 fell $1.4 billion, but in 25, the forecast looks to increase by $30.6 billion from 24. So a lot of numbers, basically just to say that we had a time of decrease in net farm income, but what this year is kind of surprised, like I'm going to get into, and what that number is coming from.
Yep.
So now, Jason, you may be thinking this seems a little controversial, like I said, given that the last year was a tough time for farmers, right?
Exactly what I was thinking.
And this year seems it will be as bad, if not worse. I also thought the same. And we looked at row crop production. We're not exactly wrong in our thinking. I dug a little deeper to see what is propelling such a positive forecast. Total crop receipts are expected to decrease by $5.6 billion, or 2.3% from 24, led by lower receipts for soybeans and corn. However, total animal and animal product receipts are expected to increase by $3.8 billion, or a 1.4% increase, following increases in receipts for hogs, milk, and broilers. Now, here is the line item that has its foot on the gas pedal, if you will.
Okay.
Direct government payments are forecast to rise by $33.1 billion, or 354.5%. So last year we didn't get any, right?
Right.
This year we are. So from 2024 to in 2024 to $42.4 billion in 2025. This increase is expected largely because of supplemental and ad hoc disaster assistance to farmers and ranchers from the American Relief Act of 25. Also, total production expenses, including operator dwelling expenses, are forecast to decrease by $2.5 billion, or 0.6%, to $450.4 billion in 2025. Feed, fertilizer, including lime and soil conditioners, and pesticide expenses are expected to see the largest dollar declines in 2025. So kind of what you're seeing here, and I think what we're going to bring up in this interview that we did yesterday is, the row crop side of it, you and I were right. We're thinking that there's no way that income is going to be that high. But this is a total number of agriculture in the country. So the livestock side of things are doing pretty well. But also we're getting a government payment or ad hoc payment, right, relief, but we're also seeing lower input costs potentially, or comparatively to the last few years. So all that kind of adds up, or balances out, if you will. The average net cash farm income for farm businesses is forecast to increase 11.4% from 2024 to $128,900 per farm in 25 in nominal terms. When grouped by commodity specialization, farm businesses specializing in animal products are forecast to see higher average net cash farm income in 25, while the outlook for those specializing in crops is mixed. I should note here that according to USDA, quote, air quotes here, farm businesses are farms with annual gross cash farm income, or CGFI, annual income before expenses, of at least $350,000, or operations with less than $350,000 in annual GCFI, but that report farming as the operator's primary occupation. So not everybody may fit that bill.
That's right.
So if I throw that number out there and you're like, I'm not going to even touch that.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of people who won't.
Yeah. So now I know you were probably thinking, John, the ag economist is geeking out on all these numbers.
No doubt.
Again, but I would defend myself by saying I just hit some of the highlights of USDA's report. So if you would like to see the full report, it's very extensive, a lot of detail. You can find it at ers.usda.gov.
Yeah. I think this has got some good data and information in it. I think that, it's just a really interesting time for agriculture financially. I think, obviously we know what commodity prices are doing in the livestock market versus row crop market, and one doing better is not necessarily helpful to the other.
No,
and
they're kind of a cyclical thing, right?
That's it. And, we talked about it, I think last week, but we've gone out and talked to a farmer. We're getting ready to release this interview soon. 10th generation row crop farmer in Northeast Arkansas who's closing it down. We heard, I've in my story coming up, I'm going to tell you about farms that are closing down this year. Those row crop, the financial situation of row crop.
Yeah.
I mean, USDA can say, hey, income's looking good for 2025, but at the end of the day, if it doesn't translate to the farm, to your farm, that's a tough pill to swallow,
Yeah, I think I read some follow-up articles on this, and it's kind of saying the same thing you are, but I think it was used. USDA put the shade or the blinders on row crop producers, or overshadowed them, and that's. But I try to here in that article, like I said, trying to explain where that increase is really coming from, and it's really that government payment, livestock production doing fairly better, as well as input prices being lower relative to the last 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah, and let's talk about the American Relief Act funds that you mentioned. Those aren't in anybody's bank account right now.
No, they're not.
But you know what has to happen next month? Seeds got to go in the ground.
It does.
Farmers have got to make decisions to whether or not they're going to plant another crop this year.
Yeah.
Farmers have got to decide, 85 bushel an acre soybeans is what it's going to take to break even. Can I do that? You know what I mean? And that's kind of where I'm headed with that, is like we're still a few months probably away from those funds getting to it. But the growing season has to go on. So I think that's kind of what you're saying.
Yeah.
With some of that follow up. So today's show is going to be all about finances, the farm economy. I mean, you
I think it's been that way for the last month and a half.
I think appropriately.
Actually, more than that.
Appropriately.
I think during harvest is when, at least for me.
Yeah.
I think I was explaining to somebody yesterday was that when I started to see that prices were going down and I started to see ending stocks going up.
Yeah.
And exports going down, I was like, oh man.
Some of these trade markets collapse.
Yeah.
At least to an extent.
And then potentially, losing these markets.
Yeah. Well, if you haven't caught on, like I said, we're bringing you exclusively financial topics-based show today. If you step onto any farm in Arkansas, you'll quickly see that farm country is in a time of financial stress. Exactly what we've been talking about all day. We're going to talk about the realities of that in this story and put some faces to all these dollar figures and numbers that we've been talking about.
Okay.
I'll say shout out to Ryan McGinney from the U of A Division of Ag for this one. He opens by showing how great of a year it was for row crops in 2024 in terms of yield, noting that farmers in the state experienced record yields in every major crop: corn, cotton, soybeans, rice.
Yeah.
We saw record yields across the board. But global market trends, however, including production from competing countries, elevated input costs and depressed commodity prices, meaning most American growers saw little, if any, profit. We talked about that Brazil market ad nauseum this year, or in 2024.
Yep.
Things like that. Well, what's the result of that? According to extension economist Scott Stiles, we saw him yesterday, we'll see a few more farm auctions this winter. In fact, Jeremy Ross, who we all know as the extension soybean specialist, said he had one farmer call him on New Year's Eve to report that he was shutting it down. Ross said the farmer had a great year in terms of production, but just cannot afford to keep farming. He also said this isn't a problem specific to Arkansas. He's hearing similar stories across the Mid-South. As we reported in December, the American Relief Act, as you were just talking about, provided some economic relief, but it just wasn't enough to bring farmers into profitability in many cases. And like I said, those funds have not hit bank accounts yet, that I'm aware at least. This is especially true for farmers who don't own their own land. According to Stiles, he said, for example, if a producer is paying a 20% share of his crop sales to a landlord, that grower would need to average 62 bushels an acre in soybeans or 235 bushels an acre in corn just to approach profitability.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about this in this interview quite a bit with Matushka. But I just want to make sure that we're understanding that context. The state soybean yield average was 55 bushels, and the state's corn average yield average last year was 187 bushels per acre. as they say, John, that math don't math.
Pencil.
when you're,
It was 53 last year, wasn't it? Or 54?
55
Not this past
Oh
season.
yeah.
So
We've
hit
continued to
record.
increase,
Yeah.
but when you got to have 62 bushels if you're renting land or paying a crop share, if 62 bushels to approach profitability, as Scott Stiles says, and the state average is 55, you got to be the best farmer on the block, and you haven't made anything yet.
Yeah, that's trying
what
to
we're talking about.
Get up there high enough to extend my line of credit to next year.
That's right. So Extension Rice Specialist Jared Harkey also contributed here. He said rice growers had a bumper crop, but you know where that didn't translate? The milling yield. You know, we and this is the second growing season in a row we've heard about this. For cotton, we grew more than 25% additional acres in Arkansas last year, but we're seeing commodity prices for cotton mimic those of the 1970s, but with modern day input prices.
Yeah.
And you know how much polyester was around in the 1970s. Cotton was not a high commodity. Like nearly every other crop, market prices for soybeans in 2024 failed to keep up with the production costs. Per bushel prices fell to an average of $10.80, a $1.25 decline from the forecast prices earlier in the spring. Why does that earlier in the spring qualifier matter? Because farmers make planting decisions based on market prices, and when they put that plant in the ground and then the market price drops, there's nothing you can do. You can't pull it back out and plant something different. We had record production across 3 million acres in Arkansas, but it looks like the hill was just too high to climb. We've had some conversations with these farmers, as I mentioned, and plan to bring those stories with you in the coming days. So keep an eye out on our social channels for that. But
if you get our division updates, you'll see mine from the soybean division. I was doing some reading today on the WASDE report, market trends, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the price of soybeans is the only one I can really speak for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's been trending down since probably, I don't know, January.
Yeah.
Which hadn't 2 or 3 weeks. But at the same time, we're kind of getting in, and I think a reason why it is trending down is we're getting into Brazil's harvest again.
Right.
But the other thing I read, which I thought was interesting, they grow a cheaper product than we do, and I only mean that monetarily. It costs them less to produce that product, and traditionally they have a lower quality product than we do. But they, just like us, have been suffering from high input prices.
Interesting.
And this year, somebody had, whatever expert or analysis is out there that said this, is that Brazil specifically has pulled back on some of their inputs. And they're still projecting a large amount to come off like they were, a few months ago. But they're really concerned about the quality of those beans. And I say that to say that might tip the needle in our direction.
Help a little bit. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
So that's all I really wanted to say about that. And I don't see that really. I think it's going to be a drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
More or less than just like a cannonball.
Yeah.
Right. So,
yeah,
but anything helps at this point.
That's right. Well, let's change clothes and drive to Jonesboro.
Yeah. When we come back, we'll have our guest Matushka on the show. But first, let's take a short break, like Jason said, to hear a bit about the new Farm Bureau Health Plans of Arkansas.
Are you tired of one-size-fits-all health coverage? Welcome to Farm Bureau Health Plans of Arkansas, where you're in control. As a benefit of Arkansas Farm Bureau membership, you could save up to 40% compared to traditional coverage. Plus, you get comprehensive benefits, can enroll anytime, and access to Arkansas Blue Cross and Blue Shield's comprehensive network. Arkansas, we've got you covered. To join Arkansas Farm Bureau or find your plan, contact your county agent or visit arfbhealthplans.com.
John, don't laugh at me, but
What?
part of being live, you got to roll with the punches here.
Yeah, we're on the road too.
And that's what I guess live. What
Yeah.
I meant is on the road. So look at me now.
I see
without
you.
this microphone.
You look
stand.
good.
So
I'm impressed.
well, that's debatable.
I mean, I'd have a hard time holding my microphone.
My arms are going to get tired. I should have gone to the gym this morning, but maybe. But anyway, all right. Look, we should probably talk to our guests and not each other.
Yeah.
We mentioned it earlier today, but we're so glad to be here at the A-State Agribusiness Conference in Jonesboro. And since we're here, we thought we'd take advantage of the opportunity to speak with our new friend. I think that's fair to say. Miss Matushka Lindo Briggs. She's Senior Vice President for the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis, the Little Rock branch. Matushka, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be with you guys.
Yeah, we're happy to have you.
Thank you.
You actually just finished presenting in the general session, so we appreciate you walking pretty much right off stage and joining us here. I'll just say, we know that you began your career in broadcast journalism. We did do a little bit of homework. You've got a background in communications, which I appreciate right off the bat. But let's learn a little bit about the Federal Reserve Bank. How does that, the Federal Reserve, how does that work? And as a follow-up, not to give you too many questions at once, what's the focus of the Little Rock branch and your role there? So tell us a little bit about the
this is a very serious show, by the way.
Yeah,
so
right,
exactly.
I'm serious.
And then tell us a little bit about what you did there.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you so much, both of you, Jason and John, for having me on. I appreciate it. And I do have to start with a disclaimer that everything we talk about or everything I say, these are my words, only my words, and not those of the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis or the Federal Reserve System. Okay. So if you have a problem with anything, you come after me. That's basically what that means.
Well,
so
you're in good company here, so no pressure.
No, but so basically with the Fed, a lot of people think of monetary policy and just interest rates, but we are so much more than that. But it is a big part. But what people fail to understand is to inform monetary policy, we need the voice of Main Street. We need your voices. I need all these farmers' voices when I'm out. So that's a big part of what I do. When people think of the Fed, they think of interest rates, but they also think of research and they think of data, and there's a 6-week lag to that information. So what they really need is that qualitative information, that real-time information of what's happening. So in my role, I go out and I try to understand what are your challenges, what are your pain points, what are your fears, and some of the things that we really focus on are, say, the labor markets or supply chain, or just what's happening in your industry. And it's not just ag; we look at all the industries. And so, first, let me back up and just set up too that we cover the St. Louis Fed. We cover all or part of 7 states. The only state we cover the entire state is Arkansas.
Okay.
So,
I thought I had read that Jonesboro was sort of carved out for a different.
So we have 3 branches. Okay. So the headquarters is in St. Louis, but we have a branch in Memphis, a branch in Louisville, and a branch in Little Rock.
All right.
Okay. So that's kind of how that works, and that's to just be able to cover the footprint of everything that's going on, right? So we are doing outreach, boots on the ground, hearing your information, getting that information to help inform monetary policy. So a big part of what I do, and people always say, how did you go from a reporter to working at the Fed? But if you think about what
Have you ever been in TV journalism before, people?
Yeah.
That's real easy to explain that. Have you seen one of those paychecks?
Right? That is the truth.
So you're saying there's no hope for me in this career path?
Yeah. Stick to being an economist. Do not pursue the broadcast journalism piece.
Okay.
Oh,
Sorry.
that's not fair.
Yeah.
That's not fair.
Podcast dream crush.
There is some truth to that for sure. But instead of reporting to audiences, maybe with NBC, I'm still reporting to the president. I'm still sharing your voices. I'm still telling your story, and that's a big part of why I appreciate being here today. Is we have so much of a story to tell. We're so much more than just monetary policy.
Yeah, like I said, I sat in your session and figured out really quick. And you and I talked a little bit about this before we sat down, but figured that out really quickly. I mean, I was amazed at the information and data that you were providing up there.
Yeah, but, and I can't say the same thing because I didn't arrive in time to listen to the presentation.
He was on Dad Day.
Yeah,
at least you're
he
honest.
gets a break.
I have a lovely little 2-year-old boy that I have to take care of every morning. But he was very happy when I dropped him off, so that was a blessing. Made the drive a lot easier. But, we'll get into a little bit more depth about kind of what the office's role is in the state of Arkansas and what y'all's feelings are. But in preparing for the interview, Jason and I kind of looked over things and learned a little bit about, the several industry councils that you all have, including an agribusiness council.
Correct.
So can you tell us how those councils are helpful, and specifically how the Agribusiness Council informs your work specifically?
Okay, so we have 4 councils, and it's healthcare, transportation, real estate, and ag. And my counterparts in the other branches help run the different councils, and I am in charge of the Ag Council. So what we do is we'll have a representative or several from each of our 7-state region.
Oh, nice.
And so we'll meet twice a year, and they'll get questions in advance of what we're going to ask, especially whatever's going on in the world. You know, we'll ask questions related to that. But definitely, and we have all sectors of even the ag industry. So it's not going to be all row crop farmers. It's, you know, we want somebody from lumber. We want a catfish farmer. We want everything you can think of. And it's just understanding what's happening in that industry. So basically, they come to St. Louis twice a year. We usually do something in the spring and something in the fall. And it's really an economic exchange, which is a big part of what we do. It's not just us getting information, we are also sharing. So we hope it's an investment in them, that we're trying to help our region, we're trying to share what's happening and see what's going on. So that's really why we meet, to just understand our entire footprint together, but also for them to understand who they're working with in the state of Missouri, in the Indiana, Illinois, what's going on.
So those councils are made up of people just not in Arkansas.
Correct.
Yeah.
Just
So they're
not in
all
Arkansas.
across
They're all across our
reach.
7-state region.
Okay.
So I probably, for my council, we have 4 representatives from Arkansas.
But
And do
some
y'all go
familiar
out
faces,
and-
John. I should tell you, I think I saw Jamie Anderson is on
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Jennifer
Jamie's on there.
James. I mean, definitely some faces we see at Farm Bureau.
Yeah.
meetings.
Yeah, and we try to make sure, too, on those we're covering the entire state, right?
Yeah.
We don't want everybody from Central Arkansas or everybody from Southern Arkansas. We're really trying to cover
You need some more
territory,
people from
too.
Stuttgart, I think.
You think? I
John.
wonder who.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, not the time to,
Hey,
to
man.
you know, to try and get on the. In
And
the
this is
Arkansas
after he
territory
missed
here.
the presentation.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I mean, rice is important. So are
Oh,
ducks.
wow.
You got any information on more ducks coming this way? Yeah. But so I appreciate that answer, and that kind of leads up to the next question: is what's the financial environment you see specifically as it relates to agriculture, and is there a difference between kind of what a federal scope or national scope and kind of a state specific or your region,
Right.
Southeast?
So really, I don't know if there's a big difference. We do tend to see trends bubble up, and within our state, they go straight to the region, and we do see them nationally. And so we do compare those differences. And I actually pulled out a little bit of what I said when I was talking. I just wanted to share it with your audience, too,
Okay.
on some of the key things, especially key takeaways in cost and pricing that we notice. So farm financial stress remain limited. So banks are seeing more stress in ag, but right now, nothing over usual, so they're going to keep an eye on that. They're not concerned yet, so that'll be something I'll be asking quite a bit when I'm out. With the 2024 row crop cycle complete, producers reported limited profits as strong yields were unable to offset lower prices and higher input costs. So see, that's something that you've seen that's thread from us nationally. So we do see a lot of stuff like that. Strong prices in cattle market and animal industries, and we heard that today from pretty much everybody that spoke across the board, across the state. So you'll see a lot of what we hear, it does bubble up. Cotton and corn prices have increased since August, but remain below what they were at the beginning of 2024. We've seen feed cost prices are lower, and there's also a reduction in energy and fuel. And then lastly, despite a significant rise in overall farmer sentiment following the U.S. elections, short and long-term farmland value expectations have fallen since November of 2024.
So we reported on that farmer sentiment last week. I don't know if you follow the Purdue University Farmer Sentiment Survey. It's a monthly survey that they put out, and it talks to farmers across the country, not just in the South or Southeast. But but one of the things that they noted in their February report, January report, I guess, which came out in February, is that an increase of farmer sentiment since December. But I thought that was that's one of the notes I made in sitting in your presentation, that even though that sentiment has gone up, and what we said last week is farmers are ever the optimists. Like, you know, that's predictable that farmers
keep
would
on
be,
going.
would be.
Yeah.
But the land value piece of that was really interesting to me. I had not heard that. We haven't seen reporting on land value in several months. I think USDA usually does that. So that was interesting to me.
And everything that I reported today and the information that comes out, we'd usually do it quarterly. So this is coming off of Q4 information, and we do an outreach in Q1.
That lines up. And you'll hear me say, well, you won't because, you know, we'll be gone. But what I said earlier, I should say, wink to the camera. What I said earlier is that those farmers who rent their land are going to have an even tougher time in 2025 because it's just another piece that's coming out of that profitability. And if you have an opportunity to own land, you should try and own it.
Yes, and that's an emerging trend that they're saying. If you can see land, get it.
Yeah.
That's something along with all the other innovative things that they've been talking about. But that is a huge concern, especially in our areas, that consolidation.
Yeah, the conversation he was talking about we had yesterday, I brought up the thought, as a landowner, just not talking about somebody that's fully renting. If you own land or you have a bundle of assets and your equipment, your land, and let's just call it storage buildings, shops, but it seems like this year you're thinking about, do I have that auction and get out, or am I going to start selling off chunks of land just to stay in business?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a scary, scary decision.
It is scary.
And one thing I also wanted to ask was that earlier in the show I gave a story on USDA's net farm income report that came out, and I think it seemed very positive, but it misled on the row crop side of things. And we have really good cattle prices. Input costs are coming down. So that side of agriculture is, I wouldn't say doing really well by any means, but is a little bit better off comparatively to row crop. Is that kind of the same stuff you're kind of hearing? And is there some sort of relief? We've got the ad hoc payments, and we're hoping for a farm bill this year. Is there something that row crop people or farmers can kind of look forward to as kind of light at the end of the tunnel, or in any of the conversations you're having, right?
Right.
Nothing as the Federal Reserve is concerned, but what's your opinion on that report, or and
Well, I don't really have an opinion on the report. All I can tell you is that the information that I get and what I'm hearing from our contacts, I'm not hearing anything.
Yeah.
Looking forward, I'm not hearing that.
Well, I'm in the same place. I was hoping you'd tell me something positive.
John, she skipped over, but the first point she made in the session was that poultry house construction is up in Arkansas.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that may address a little bit of what you're talking about. I mean, we're seeing, that animal agriculture investment, and
Yeah.
we've been seeing in small ruminants too, just in Farm Bureau members, an increase in farmers getting into goat and sheep production, in addition to cattle. So,
Yeah. Another thing that worried me about that report was that I think a lot of that increase in net farm income was from government payments this year.
Okay.
So we can't do that over and over and over
right.
again,
We
right?
can't,
It's not
no.
sustainable. So that's concerning as well.
That is concerning. But the other thing I do hear a lot, like you're saying, trying to get into different things, is diversification. We have to see diversification, and that's a key thing that comes out in our contacts that we talk to.
I was setting up an interview this week with a peach farmer. He used to be a peach farmer, but when we were listing out his commodities, and you'll know who I'm talking about, John, but peaches, cattle, and turkey.
Wow.
And raising peaches is not an easy gig, but having to diversify across the farm.
I have
the
to be honest,
operation.
I didn't know anybody was doing peaches in Arkansas.
So
we've got a handful.
now you're going to get me telling a story. I grew up in the eastern part of the state in St. Francis County, about an hour south of here.
Okay.
And when I was, so I'm telling you, I'm 43. When I was a kid, there were peaches everywhere in St. Francis County. I mean, I bet we had 5 or 6 really strong peach orchards. Now they're neighborhoods and subdivisions or whatever. But my grandparents had a huge peach orchard right across from them. We had a lot of peaches in the Delta just, 20, 30 years ago.
Okay.
It hasn't been that long, or maybe a little bit more, but it hasn't been that long. And John focuses on specialty crops.
I do.
So he can talk more about that than I can.
There's 2 well-known ones in the state, but there's little pockets everywhere.
Okay.
They're not, I wouldn't say giant footprints, and also I would say orchards in general aren't what they were 50 years ago in the state of Arkansas. Northwest Arkansas was well known for apples, even further back than that.
Okay.
And it's hard. There is an apple orchard there, but it's not kind of a well-known thing anymore like it used to be. That's kind of like I don't want to say it negatively and say that's a dying breed of agriculture, but it has been hurt by several different things. They're very susceptible to weather.
Fruit production is hard.
Yeah. And
Which is, I want to share another point too. We have the Agribusiness Council for St. Louis. So a lot of the feds have different councils as well. They may not all have agribusiness. And so this will be the first year what we're going to try to do because of diversification, because I didn't even know we were growing peaches in Arkansas. But we are partnering with the Atlanta Fed, the Dallas Fed, and the Kansas City Fed, and we're going to pull our ag people together to just kind of break out of our silos and try to understand, what's happening in Texas with energy and how can that affect all of us. So that's something that we're moving to just hear different applications.
And natural resources too, water should be a part of that conversation, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, all of that. But anyway, I digress. All right, keep us moving because we could keep you here all day. Part of your work includes monitoring and reporting economic activity.
Correct.
We've talked a little bit about what you've seen as far as agriculture. Is there anything else that you can pull out of that is, I'll say, rural community specific, that really takes a look at those communities as a whole?
Right.
That you'd like to talk about?
Yeah. So I don't work by myself looking at rural communities. I mean, again, even though I do the Ag Council, I go to all the communities looking at every industry possible. We also have a community development team that really focuses on the low to moderate income and really focuses on rural aspects and investing in rural prosperity and how to bring rural back.
Yeah.
So we're always looking at, and hearing what's happening. And some of the just common threads are just affordability for housing. Obviously, that is something huge that we hear about. The other thing that goes across is just helping people understand the opportunity of what they don't see. So the workforce is a big issue in rural. There's concern that we're losing our rural communities in this state and really throughout our region. So, how do we handle that? And losing health care in those rural regions is something else big that we talk about. And really, I think the problem is how do you get a doctor? How do you get these people to come into the rural communities when you don't have the amenities, right? You want to go to the movie, you want to take your family out, you want to do stuff. So trying to understand, working with foundations, trying to understand access to capital is a key part of something that we do and something that we see a lot in the rural community, and trying to understand how we change that, how we help with that. Because again, our dual mandate is stable prices, but also, looking at the workforce as well.
Yeah, we talk a lot about that. I'd say, Farm Bureau spends a lot of time thinking about rural communities in general because of their importance to agriculture and vice versa. But you're exactly right. I mean, a county over from Pulaski, Lonoke County, I remember doing an interview with a physician there right when I first moved here, and he was talking about bringing in students from UAMS, but how much he was encouraging those students to go ahead and move to Lonoke and not commute, because that's when you really get an understanding of the community you're serving.
Right. And you're giving back to the community, right? So you're eating there, you're doing your dry cleaning there, you're getting your gas there. But if you're just commuting in, eventually that community is going to die off.
Yeah.
I was really hopeful that with COVID and when we started being able to work remotely and started to be able to see our doctor remotely and all of those things, I thought it was going to be a moment for rural communities and people kind of get to spread out.
Right.
Get some space back, slow down a little bit, so on and so forth, but still have that line through broadband or whatever that may be back to town.
Right.
And unfortunately, it seems I've been wrong about that. We haven't seen that move back out to rural communities like I thought we would see.
Yeah.
And that's frankly just my personal opinion. It's a little disappointing to me.
We've had it here at Farm Bureau. During that time, we had Zoom meetings and whatnot.
Sure.
And you get stuff accomplished through that, right? But it's something about being face to face in person, whether you're introvert or extroverted. There's just a loss in connection there a little bit on screen.
Yeah.
But that would have, I think some of that's still there, right? In some of our rural communities, though.
Yeah.
Especially with broadband stretching out as much as it has.
Yeah. It's tough for some of those locally owned businesses and mom and pops and stuff to stay open. I'm always glad when we go to a video shoot or a meeting or something like that to be able to go and sit down in a restaurant that's owned by people who live in that community and so on and so forth. But we could talk about that all day. Sorry.
Well, Matushka, with your, the comments you just made about the issues in rural communities and hearing all that, I would imagine you have some outreach and education as being a large part of what y'all do.
Yes.
And so tell us about that work and why it's important. Does that work benefit farmers in general and the work that they do?
I definitely think it benefits farmers, but I feel like it benefits everybody in your community. And something that I'd love for your listeners to listen to is when we talk about workforce and we're out there. So we want to educate that workforce, and all the information we have is free. So we have financial literacy information. We have economic education. When they started requiring, economics in high school, we had our economic education team help with the
We
curriculum.
didn't have that when I was in high school.
We
had
either.
accounting.
I know. And what's
Boring.
that doing for you as a broadcaster?
No better do better, John. No better do better.
What are those numbers doing for you as a broadcaster?
Yeah, when I got to college and took micro and macro 101, I was like,
Underwater
what is
basket
this?
weaving? Okay.
Right.
I thought you were going to talk about
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just
Creative
that
dance.
basic is helpful. So again, we are always working with the rural communities and the teachers, helping them with their curriculum,
Yeah.
helping them understand. So we have that information that's free. We also have something that I talked about, which is our FRED, our Federal
right.
Reserve Economic Data, and that's
Yeah.
free too. There's so many data series that farmers can go out there and look at commodities, look at their interests of consumer spending, anything that's happening. So that's information that
Yeah.
I'd love for sure to do. We also have a book that we had a lot of writers, people from the state of Arkansas. It's called Investing in Rural Prosperity. I can get you free copies of that too.
that would be
Again,
great.
everything we
Please.
have is free, so I'm happy
Yeah.
to give your listeners, if they want it, we have that book, Investing in
Oh,
Rural
perfect.
Prosperity.
We get
that-
you to sign it, and
Yep.
I can give you one of my pictures that Jason printed out for me the other day.
Well, I didn't write anything in the book, but we had several people from the Board of Governors to just people on our industry
Yeah.
councils
Yeah,
and our
sure.
directors each had chapters. So it was just
Yeah.
kind of their thoughts on how to get rural evolving again. So that was a good thing. But the other key thing that I'd love for your listeners to do is I'm on the Economics Arkansas Council, and something that we work hard is getting teachers as well as students to introduce them to industry. So the kids need to see where they can
Absolutely.
be.
Yeah.
Right? So how do we get, for these farmers, invite the kids out,
Yeah.
have them come
Yeah.
through, go to your classroom. And we talked, even manufacturing firms, have them walk through, have them see something. I think we're really trying really hard as the Federal Reserve to bring convenings together, bring people together, see what's working,
Oh, that's so excellent.
Yeah.
whether it's going to a four-year college or certification. How can we help our young people go into the farm industry and learn all different aspects and learn things that may be coming, like we
Yeah.
were talking about AI, technology. How are the data centers and how's this stuff going to help ag? And
Yeah.
they've got to
Yeah.
look into this innovation.
And I'm glad you brought up that industry piece and trying to get young people out there, because growing up in Stuttgart, I knew there was farms and I worked on them. Right. I knew there were banks and I knew there were chemical companies, but at a certain point I realized I wasn't going to be farming, but I didn't know what else was out there.
Right.
So that would have been a really, really good thing to have at that age, a little bit, knowing more about what the industry is. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of kids come out of college or even high school, for that matter, not knowing what else is out there that they could possibly do, and being exposed to that at a young age would be
Absolutely.
Right.
hugely positive.
And it's expensive to not figure that out until you've been in school for 2 years.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I mean,
It
it's
is expensive. And some people can't even go to school for 2 years. Some people, after they graduate from high school on Friday, they need a job on Monday.
That's right.
Yeah.
What
That's
are they
exactly
going to do?
right.
Where
Yeah,
can
not
they
7
go?
months later.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if they can just see themselves somewhere, so don't count ag out. I think if they
Yeah.
really understand, the possibilities and the future and the changes in ag, I think it'll be viable.
I'm going to tell you, you have a member on your board of directors who is heavily involved in the Lone Oak Business Academy.
Jamie.
And if
Yeah.
if you
Yes,
have not
and
been
Elizabeth.
to Elizabeth's,
I
if you have
have.
not taken Elizabeth's tour of that facility, boy, what a special place
It
that
is a special
They're
place.
trying to do exactly what you're talking about.
Right.
I mean, really, and it's cool to see. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you can come out of high school as a CRNA if you need to be.
I know.
Yeah.
You can come out, with already credits in a diesel mechanic program
Yeah.
and be tied right into ASU BB or something like that. I mean, it's
Yeah.
really cool.
And it's
they're
full.
doing exactly.
They're full all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
I mean, that just shows you the need,
Yeah.
So if you are a farmer out there and you haven't been there, Elizabeth and Jamie would be happy
That's
let
right.
you go
Yes,
through there. And
absolutely.
Elizabeth is actually a new director on our board, so we're happy to have her. And she's also a sorority sister, so she's a good friend of mine.
How about that? And you
I
can get
know.
some lunch at Grumpy Rabbit.
Yeah.
Grumpy Rabbit, good hamburger.
My goodness.
There you
Yeah,
go.
Jason, I'm gonna
Good
have to pause you before we get to our
Okay.
last question here.
Okay.
Well, when the three of us were talking before we got on, you talked about labor in your talk. What's the Federal Reserve's how are you working in that area, and what are the concerns you're hearing from your people? Because that's a big issue for our members here at Farm Bureau.
Right. So basically, what we're hearing is that it wasn't like it was in COVID where there was nobody coming. You couldn't even put a help wanted sign up and nobody would
Right.
show up. Now we're hearing, and across all sectors, it's not just ag, across all sectors, now we're hearing that, well, yeah, we're getting 50 to 100 people applying, but the skill set's not there.
Yeah.
And the work ethic's not there. So it's really the entry level positions. We're really struggling that we're hearing from our contacts that we
Yep.
can't keep them. They're not, but they are willing to upskill. I will tell you that most of the companies that I talk to are willing, if they show heart,
Yeah.
they're willing to upskill
Invest
them
in
and
that.
willing to
Yeah.
invest in them, which is a great thing. And we need more of that. Even if it's saying the companies that are doing the best that are saying, hey, if you stay with us for 5 months, then this is where you'll be.
Yeah.
And then we'll add this insurance. And then if
Yep.
you stay with us for another 6 months, this is where you'll be. You'll get promoted. So it's kind of a wraparound service that you have to do now. We didn't have that growing up, but I really think the kids now need a wraparound service on what's available, how long it takes. You're not going to make $1 million when you get started. And
Yeah.
so I think companies are realizing that they have to change too. They
Yeah.
can't just point the finger on the children. So that's kind of
Yeah.
like what we're hearing. It's like we have to meet them halfway. They don't want to do overnight shift
Yeah.
work. They don't want overtime. You know how we killed for
Yeah,
overtime,
for
right?
sure.
We wanted
Make that money.
They want
Yeah.
quality of life. Both
Yeah.
parents
Yeah.
want to go to the soccer game. So really trying to help industry understand too, and talking to teachers, like we all have to change a little
Yeah.
bit.
Meet in the
Yeah.
middle,
Change.
compromise
Yeah.
on both
Yeah.
sides a little bit.
Yeah,
That's
So
great.
that's what we're hearing really in
Awesome.
the work and the labor force.
All right. Well, I tell you, I think that's all the tough questions for today. You have any more?
Well,
You keep throwing something out. Yeah. All right. I got to tell you, we always wrap up our interviews with having a little bit of fun, and we're crossing our fingers that you don't mind us surprising you a little bit.
No.
Don't worry. Even U.S. senators have participated, who have been on the show, have gotten the same treatment. So
I feel lucky.
We don't,
Yeah,
we don't
you're
let,
up
we
there
don't
on a
let
pedestal
anybody off the hook is the point I'm making. It's so loud in here because people are going to lunch. So if you're listening and not watching,
But they
you're
had a
probably
good
seeing that.
turnout, so that's awesome.
It's a great
Yeah.
turnout.
It was a great
turnout.
turnout.
it's a good conference.
Yes.
All right. So let's get down to it. We do one fun question that you don't get to know about before you get here.
Okay.
And it's different for every person. And yours is based on your background, so it should be pretty easy.
All right.
I've read that sports play a big role in your life. You've been a sportscaster and so on and so forth. You were a former, like I said, you were a former sports reporter. You play pickleball and tennis,
Correct.
but most recently you picked up fishing as a hobby
I love it.
with your husband.
Yes.
So my question to you is this: which was tougher to learn, good pickleball form, or how to accurately cast a fishing rod?
Well, I think it's kind of a tie because I started with tennis, so good pickleball form is hard.
Yeah.
With starting with tennis, and then as long as I'm not fly fishing and I have a spin reel, then I can cast pretty
Then you
well.
can get out there?
So yeah, then I look like I know what I'm doing.
What are you fishing for? What's your favorite?
Probably trout.
Trout?
Yeah.
You go up the White River a little
I
bit? and the Little
do.
Red,
We
maybe?
stay at Craner's
Ooh.
at the
Oh,
White
nice.
River.
Yeah.
Yes, love
Mr.
it.
Craner's a great guy. up
Yes,
there.
and
Yeah.
we have Barefoot Jerry usually helps us when
Nice.
we're looking
Okay.
for browns, and we're not good at it. We don't know what to throw
I
out
don't
there.
either.
Yeah, I'm just like corn. Okay,
Yeah.
that
I'm
works.
happy
So-
to be there more or less.
Me too.
You know?
Like I can sit out there for 6 hours and not say anything to my husband, and it's just the best.
Yeah,
time.
it is.
I've got
Yeah.
a pickleball question since I don't play.
Okay.
Would you say pickleball is more like tennis or more like
No,
ping
it's
pong?
More like ping pong.
Ping
That's
pong,
what I thought.
100%.
100%.
Yeah.
Okay.
100%.
Yeah.
I'm
All right. Bonus question: what are you eating in St.
Yeah.
Louis?
Well, the Italian in St. Louis
For
with the hill
sure.
is just the best. You have to go eat
Yeah.
Italian.
I was just
Yeah.
thinking about the hill. So he asked you that question. I'm thinking that's
What?
probably the hill.
Okay.
That's where I'm going.
All right.
That neighborhood.
Where?
right?
When are you going?
No, I'm just saying. I was thinking.
Oh, yeah. I would
Right
definitely
after
go to
this.
the Hill.
When he asked that question, we are pretty close. But when he asked that question, I'm thinking the Hill is probably where I'm going to eat
Yeah,
dinner.
100%.
Now, I will say one odd thing I didn't expect. We had a big meeting in St. Louis last summer, and apparently there's a horseradish farm not far out of St. Louis.
Oh, I don't know about
And the
that.
horseradish there is just, I've never had horseradish just like, I mean, as
Really?
fresh and as, I don't know if hot's the right word
Now,
for
these are
horseradish.
two farms I've never heard of. You're telling me you've got the peaches.
I didn't know
and
that, but apparently, there's a big horseradish, not I won't say industry or sector or whatever
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
St. Louis. So they get it fairly fresh. But yeah, I was just taken off. If anybody else knows anything
The
about
only time I
horseradish,
eat
let me know.
horseradish is if I have a hot dog or
We had oysters.
Lion's Choice.
Yeah.
Lion's Choice.
It's better than Arby's.
Oh,
It's
interesting.
like
I've never heard of this
roast.
place.
You never heard of Lion's Choice?
No, but I'm.
It's
I'm
like
down to
roast
try it.
beef, kind of rare. They just shave it right when you order it,
Oh,
and you put
wow.
like some cheese and horseradish
I would
on
say
it.
that's probably a lot better than Arby's.
Oh yeah.
I'm thinking about
Well,
when I think about horseradish.
This is my own opinion.
Yeah.
Not those of the
Fresh sliced beef compared to Arby's. I get you.
When,
yeah,
when
I'm
I,
right there.
When I think about horseradish, I think about, of course, oysters. But I think about
Yeah.
because we're in the South. But I think about Indianapolis. You know, shrimp cocktail is kind of their deal up there.
Yeah.
And that's what I forget the name of that restaurant. But
Well, regardless, we found a way on the show to talk about food once again.
we did.
And
See,
it's
now I'll
every
come
episode.
back. If
Yeah.
you talk about food,
We love to talk.
I'm a
It's
foodie.
agriculture. We have to
Yeah.
talk
We have to talk about
yeah.
food.
I'll
fair.
tell you, John's already put one of these in your car, but we're going to give you an AdCast sticker too to take with you. So
nice.
he went out earlier and put that on. But there's your
No,
second. There's a
I'm-
second
I'm,
one.
I'm
so.
not that creepy.
All honesty, you've been so awesome, and you've let us be goofy and really insulting at times. So
Yeah.
to-
Yeah.
This
speaking
was
for
so
myself-
fun.
Way to go.
I
Speaking for
really
myself,
appreciate it. I really do.
Thanks so much for joining the show. We're so glad that you took
Yeah,
the
thank
time
you.
to share a little bit of your day.
No, thank you. You guys
Yeah.
are fun.
Awesome.
Anytime, come visit me.
Yeah, we would.
We're going to do it.
Well, we've got a whole department full of economists that would love to come over there and see what y'all do.
Yay.
We'll
Yeah.
all-
More
we'll all
economists,
have
that's
our
what I'm
pads
looking
and-
for.
Yeah, yeah, I'm
You can
sure
call,
you are.
Yeah, you can call it Nerd
Yeah.
Day. All right. Well, hey, that was fun.
Yeah, look at that microphone.
Yeah. My arm's tired, dude. I've been holding that thing for like 30
You
minutes. I
didn't
don't
drop
know.
it. I'm disappointed. I fully expected you to drop it a few times.
Well, I mentioned that we were having the adventures of being live and on scene. Or on site. I didn't really talk about why, but it's because the microphone's sandbroke.
Yeah.
So I got to hold it. But
Good job.
anyway, well, I think it's just us in here, so we better wrap this thing
Yeah,
up.
it's fairly empty.
All right. Well, that's the news for this week. Thanks for following along with the Arkansas AgCast. We're grateful for you taking the time to watch and listen.
Yes, absolutely. Remember, you can catch new episodes of the show every Thursday afternoon. Find video episodes on Facebook and YouTube, and listen to the audio version wherever you listen to podcasts.
That's right. Make sure to subscribe and leave us a review when you have a few extra minutes. The Arkansas AgCast is brought to you by the Arkansas Farm Bureau. I'm Jason Brown.
And I'm John McMahon.
We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.